Back, we have a special guest with us today. You may know him as the father of Elizabeth Smart, who was kidnapped from her Utah home in 2002 and rescued 9 months later. Of course, it is Ed Smart. Thank you so much for being with us today.
It's great to be with you today.
Now, you have become a big advocate for saving children from human trafficking and the kind of abuse that Elizabeth went through.
Yes, and Ed is actually part of a team that is called Operation Underground Railroad, and we want to ask you more about that in just a moment. But first, this organization has been a part of making a movie explaining the horrors of children in the sex trade and the work that OUR is doing in sting operations to free those kids. Take a look at part of the trailer for The Abolitionists.
So she's 14.
Yes.
Here's the thing, does she do everything?
If she wants more money, she better ask.
If me and my team don't find these kids and go for these kids, no one is going to. It's our job. We have to do something. We pretend to be one of those traveling people on a sex tour. We're going to go after these bad guys. Anywhere they are, we're going to find them, we're going to root them out, we're going to pull these kids out.
And it's
Wow.
such a powerful clip, even in just the 30 seconds we saw, let alone the 2-minute trailer. How are you connected to this movie?
You know, I started working with them about a year ago, and in August I came on full-time as the Director of Prevention and Rehabilitation. And you know, our efforts are really to go out there to work with existing governments. We don't go out there as a vigilante type of group. But we work with the governments and with law enforcement to set up these sting operations, and they basically come in and they may have a word or a signal that will invite them to come in, and they'll basically arrest everyone and put the children in protective services and try to place them in shelters so that they can have the potential of a new future. Of course, if you rescue them and they're back out on the street, you're not accomplishing the end result. So really, to be able to make sure that they have a future and a new opportunity is what I'm working on.
How has dealing with what happened to Elizabeth, led you to fight for children caught in this?
Well, my perspective is that, Elizabeth was enslaved. I mean, she was basically chained between cabled between two trees for 6 weeks and then coerced, much in the same way that these young girls and boys are. And the bottom line comes down to, we need to get to a point where people are talking about it. It's an ugly issue. It's one, when we talk about sex of any sort, it's kind of that taboo that we don't want to talk about. But we really need to have a conversation with our children. The bad thing about trafficking here in the United States is that down in South America or other areas of the world where kidnapping can occur, or the parents sell the children, sometimes because they have no way of taking care of them, or they'll sell them, rent them out for the weekend. Here in the United States, we don't have that problem for the most part, but we do have children that run away. We do have these, quote, boyfriends that show up, and I'm going to write an article, "Is Your Boyfriend a Pimp?" Because in many cases what will happen is these pimps, supposed boyfriends, will come in and develop this relationship, rapport, grooming, luring, manipulation, to the point that they don't even recognize themselves as being victims. They're just supporting the lifestyle that they have together. So there are many aspects of this, but the commonality is that there is exploitation going on. I mean, even in the case with the boys up in Rexburg, we don't know who those traffickers are. Little did I know that Brian David Mitchell was going to kidnap my daughter, that he was going to be raping her, and all of the ugliness that went there, or the ugliness that happened to these boys. But the bottom line is, if we as parents aren't in a position or have the relationship with our children where they can trust us and tell us what the problems are, or tell us that these bad things are happening without feeling guilt, without feeling like they're responsible for that. I mean, those boys up there were not responsible for what happened. And there are predators out there. You don't know who, they might be your best friend,
right,
but you don't know what is happening behind the scenes. the bottom line is we need to address the behaviors that are happening out there. We need to talk about it to the point, I have this mantra, be prepared, not scared. Because these are scary topics. I mean, kidnapping, seeing these law enforcement coming in and grabbing, arresting everyone. These are things that can be very traumatic. And even to many of these girls down there, when they were arrested, well, who's going to pay me? How am I going to support my family? I mean, you have no idea what types of manipulation have occurred to put them in this situation. Even the whole aspect of, Elizabeth, when she came home, I feared for anyone hearing that she had been raped. That was the last thing I wanted her to have to deal with. I'm sure it's the last thing that all of those boys' parents wanted them to have to endure. He or you or this or that. The bottom line comes down to when these things happen, we do have to address them, and not in a victimization type of way. I remember hearing one of Elizabeth's boyfriend's parents saying, well, do you think she's okay? Or, the indication is she's less of a person than she was before. And this re-victimization has got to stop. The whole thing that, if someone's been raped or something, that they are less of a person, we've got to get this whole mentality out of there.
Right.
Because they will not be the best that they can be in this life carrying that around with them.
Absolutely. And as you've gone through working with this organization and helping these children, have you seen positive changes?
Absolutely. And I expect to see a lot more changes. That's one of the values of this movie, is that it is going to create awareness on the issue. And the more that we can talk about it, the less victimization will occur. When I think of the Amber Alert and the great tool it's become, one of the best things that it has put the mindset of those who would abduct a child to, am I going to get caught? Is it worth the risk? And that's what's got to happen with this exploitation of children and sexual assault. And the whole tourist industry is, if we are on the line so that everyone knows that we are out there looking, we are working to save those kids and prevent this from happening. When we all work together, wow, what a difference it can make.
And if someone wants to get involved and help put an end to this, what would you recommend that they do?
Absolutely. They can go onto our website, ourrescue.org. We actually have campaigns, fundraising, volunteer, but really getting on social media and talking about it and being able to, one of the tools that we're creating is one called Our Stories, in which we're sharing. Elizabeth is actually interviewing some of those who have been victimized and now are thrivers, and telling that story and what those different aspects and issues are throughout it. And I think the more educated we can become on it, the better off we are. And, of course, we're always looking for support. The one great thing about OUR is we have not taken a penny of government money. Everything has been provided because of the generous donations that everyone has reached out and shared with us.
Excellent. Well, thank you so very much for being with us today and telling us about OUR. And if you'd like to see The Abolitionists, you can. That movie is being shown tonight at the Fat Cats Theater in Rexburg. There's a Q&A after each showing. Those showings are at 5:36, 7:45, and 8:15, and admission is free.